Justified in questions, justified in getting answers. Matt Palumbo and Booker Scott are justified. This is the PB&J Podcast.
Muslims and mosques. What happened to Mitch McConnell? Is he dead, alive, brain dead? And the ceasefire that has now ceased. I'm Booker Scott. This is the PB&J Podcast. Thank you for joining us wherever you are watching us, whether you're watching us on WD Americans Facebook Live or TalkRed.com. We appreciate it. My host in this hour is Matt Palumbo. Matt, we have a lot to talk about tonight. As every week, we have a lot to talk about.
It's just a story of, that's the modern era. Every single week's the same in that regard. But
it's like a Groundhog Day.
It's good for us. Good for us in this business.
It's sort of like the ceasefire in Iran. It feels like a ceasefire. We're going to have a deal. We're not going to have a deal. We're going to bomb them. We're not going to bomb them. All in 24 hours, it seems like.
There's been a number. We've probably done a dozen shows where at the end we're asking, what's next in Iran? And the answer is always, I'll believe it when I see it.
That's right. Well, we have a special guest with us tonight. It's someone that has been on the radio program several times. I would say 5 or 6 times over the last couple of years. He has a wealth of knowledge in Middle East. He has been there. He has a distinguished military career. He's written a book, which we'll talk about that just a little bit, but we're going to get him in here now. You probably will recognize him. He has been a regular on Newsmax and on Fox News as well. He is retired Colonel Darin Gaub, and we're going to get him to the stage right now. And there he is. Darin, welcome to the program.
Hey, Booker, Matt, great to join you both.
Yeah, it's good to finally see a face on you. We've always done radio together, but never video. And I know you just had an anniversary. I hope you had a great one. What number was it?
32.
32. Congratulations.
Put up with me for a long time.
So what do we make of this Iran situation at this point? We're going to have a deal. We're going to have a ceasefire. There is no ceasefire. We're bombing them. We're going to bomb them to oblivion. Now Trump is calling them scum, where like 2 or 3 days ago, he said, I love them. So what do we make of all of this?
Well, first of all, that's Trump being Trump. That's that deal maker in New York coming out. And 1 minute your friend, the next minute your foe. But he just keeps moving forward and whatever he thinks best. But if I were sitting at his side when all this began, I would have just looked at him straight and said, this is how Iran operates. This is how terror groups, and then in this case, industrial scale terror nations operate. They're going to talk to you about making a deal, then they're going to drag it out, then they're going to renege on the deal, then they were never planning on following through it anyways. And they're going to make this thing take as long as they possibly can, because in their mind, they win if there's chaos, and they win if they were to outright defeat us, which militarily, that's not going to happen. But they consider themselves a victor as well if the chaos takes over and they can influence American policy and many other things, because you've got a terror regime mixed with a religious ideology who's ultimately trying to bring back the Mahdi and their end times scenario vision of the world. So all that is to say that we're sitting here today going about exactly where I thought we would be from the beginning. And we're still not totally speaking their language, but we're getting closer, which is, we're going to have to resort to the continued use of force, because that's all they know. The ideology is still there, even though the names have changed.
You and I talked about it on the radio. Matt and I also talked about it on the radio show repeatedly, that this is probably where this was going to end. There was, Iran, as you said, they win, whether they win or not. If they can outlast the superpower in the world, then they have won. And it's going to take a lot of resolve right now, I think, for Donald Trump, because there is no deal with these people. And we have seen this, for 47 years? And we've really seen it over the last year and a half, if you pay attention to it. We had the Midnight Hammer. Before that, you had Donald Trump, I think March to May in 2025 was bombing the Houthis in Yemen. And then you had Midnight Hammer, which was supposed to be the end of the Iranians' capability of nuclear weapons, which we found out later that it wasn't. But up until that Midnight Hammer, they were negotiating then with Trump. And it didn't work then. And now we're back to the same spot. I never thought that there was a deal to make with them, because I really believe that that's their history. They outlast their competition and they claim victory. And I think Donald Trump's looking for a way to get out of here and also claim victory. And I don't see how this happens at this point. What are you seeing?
Yeah, you talk about the last year and a half, and I would tell you that from my background, I was sitting on the White House lawn in 1993 when Yasser Arafat and Bill Clinton signed the Oslo Accords. And Yasser Arafat flew home and basically was laughing the whole way because they consider treaties even to be deception. And they say war is deceit, and that's the ideology that infests Iran. So if you take that at face value and just understand that that's how these people operate, if you're engaged in diplomacy, if you're signing memorandums of understanding, if you even think you're getting close to having a deal where you can sign on paper, what you've got is just more of the deception. And that's what they're going for. And they're fine with that. They're going to keep doing that. How do you get out of this in the end? Well, in their mind, they're going to, of course, as you say, they're going to declare victory just simply by living and continuing their revolution. We have to be more specific in defining what success and victory looks like, and then sticking to those objectives, because we've seen what failing to stick to very clear objectives looks like as we went from being in Afghanistan for a couple of years to over 2 decades. Nation building doesn't work. And this is a country that's bigger than Afghanistan, is a 90 million population that's bigger than Afghanistan. And by the way, a 500,000 person or so IRGC that is a military with its guns all pointed in, because they're designed to police the population, not defend their nation per se from a foreign invasion. That stopped essentially when the Iran-Iraq war stopped. So right now we're going down that same path. How do you then define victory based on what you're seeing now? Well, what I would tell you is based on what we targeted and how I understand targeting cycles. First thing we did, go into Iran, keep targeting the nuclear capabilities, the ballistic missile capabilities, smaller missiles, drones, launching facilities, manufacturing facilities that support all of that. Whatever the system is that supports it, you target that first, because you got to get free reign of the skies. At that point, your clock kind of ran out when it came to the congressional mandate to declare or not declare war via the War Powers Act and the Constitution. And so we went into this naval blockade. And now you're using economics even more. So when you're talking elements of national power, it's diplomacy, information, military, and economic. Military took a backseat to economic, even though they were enforcing the economic in many ways. Scott Bessent from Treasury kept pushing things pretty hard the way he needed to. But now you're sitting here going, all right, well, Iran's kicking this can. What do we have to do? Or, what do we need to do to close this out? Well, defining what victory and success looks like is critical. Ideally, the Iranian people solve this for themselves. And there are ways, I think, to do that are risky but possible. And if it's something short of that, then maybe you do need to, at some point, declare success or victory, whatever that looks like, without looking like George Bush on an aircraft carrier with the Iraq War. And you walk away from it and you hand it off to a different type of a program. Trump doesn't want to do that. I don't think. He's got a bigger scheme in mind, and maybe that'll work. I hope it does. But we got to be clear-eyed on what this regime in Iran still does right now. It's the ideology that drives them, and they don't care what the name is.
Do you think that we lifted sanctions too fast? Because Iran ended up selling, I think, 60 million barrels of oil at $80 a barrel. That's a lot of money they got since Bessent lifted the sanctions. Do you think that was premature?
Well, it may have been, and it's easy to armchair quarterback everything, and I acknowledge that, but it was a quick sanction off, and you see what happened. But the same sanction can be put on real quick. That kind of money is not going to change the thread of history, I guess, when it comes to this conflict. Not that we want them to have it, but I'm more concerned if we start talking about longer term, larger dollar figures going into Iran, because they're not going to spend any of that for the good of their people. Yeah. That's just simply going to get spent on the military and everything to rebuild their terror industry back to what they want it to be. And we can't allow that. So if someone says, let's give Iran $300 billion, and we've heard that figure before, it's not that simple. We know that, but I'm more the kind of person who says, oh, what do they need? Well, they need, medical and some other things. And, maybe you give them the material, but never the money.
Yeah.
Oversimplified, but it's just.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Matt, do you have a follow-up here?
What is, I guess, stopping us from taking over the Strait of Hormuz? Because that is really their main point of leverage. And it seems to be like it's a point of leverage. I don't know if I'm wrong in my assumption here, but it seems like it's a form of leverage they kind of discovered after this escalation. I don't know if they knew that before, but is that even possible? Is that militarily or in any way, I guess?
Well, two things. One of them is that they've always planned on using the strait as leverage. In fact, I've got decades of dealing with Iran, and they have always done that. How they do it specifically, that can change, but that they needed to, they knew it. Okay. What's stopping us, essentially, is us, our own restraint. And we're seeing the gloves come off, a little bit at a time right now. It's like one finger at a time rather than just ripping them off. But and that's what you're seeing. That scenario I described to you earlier about how we're peeling back the air defense systems and the missiles and the nukes and all that kind of stuff. That's a countrywide solution to freeing up the skies to give us freedom of maneuver in the skies in air dominance to do whatever we need to do. That's why if you were looking on a scale of what we destroyed, was all those missiles and drones, etc. Now we've had this period of a bit of a cooling off, in for all intents and purposes. And what we're doing now is specifically targeting those things that affect or influence the strait. And all those other targets that we destroyed are gone, generally not to be replaced. So what can we do? We can refine our targeting down to those things that take away the only leverage point they really have left. If they can't reach or influence the strait, then that's gone. What does that look like? Taking out towers that deal with internet that allow them to do anything economic, taking away drone launch sites, missile launch sites, any kind of Navy that might be left, surface to ship missiles, anti-ship missile systems. The targeting has gotten down to that level of fidelity where that's what we're focused on. And I hope we stay that way with what we do with our strikes, because if you take away their ability to reach it and touch it, then you can't influence it. And that takes away their last point of leverage. It's not going to be one day thing. It's definitely multi-day, but I think what they're doing makes sense right now.
Okay.
I want to come back and follow up with something you said about objectives, because we know that Donald Trump's objective has been no nuclear weapons, and that would mean inspections. That would mean enrichment of uranium is over, and we would have to go in and check and make sure that that's done. And we also know that on the other side of it, the Iranians have said since the beginning, we will never give up our right to have a nuclear weapon. Mm-hmm. So with that as the understanding, what is the objective for Donald Trump in America then?
It's hard not to turn that into an understanding that to achieve a true lasting peace and decent neighborly relations of Iran with the countries of that area takes a generational change and an entire flip of their ideology. When you're talking about the difference between what Japan was World War II to what they became afterwards, same with Germany. That's not an easy thing to do, especially in today's environment where Americans rightfully are burned out on nation building in essence. And that's what this would turn into, or could in the worst case scenario. So I think the best case scenario is that Iranians fix this for themselves if we help them gain the capability to do it. But none of this is easy.
The Iranian people is what we're talking about. You're talking about a regime change.
Mm-hmm. A real regime change with an ideological change as well. Even if it isn't immediate, it does happen. You're just going to keep going back into Iran. If your objective remains to keep them from getting nuked, you're just going to have to keep going in and blowing it up because they're never going to stop.
And then you have to wonder politically, will the American people deal with that and want to deal with it? And then you look past 2028, you have a new president, whether it's a Democrat or Republican. Is that same foreign policy going to be there to continue to bomb their nuclear capabilities and possibilities?
You know, our greatest strength is also our greatest weakness when it comes to how dictators take advantage of it. They know that we are a constitutional republic subject to the whim of public opinion and the electorate. That's a strength. There's no way we don't want to change that, nor should we. But dictatorships who can just tell their people what to do and take actions however they want to don't have that constraint. And so they know how to, some know how to take advantage of that. And Iran knows how to take advantage of it as it sits right now. They're looking at our midterms as much as we are. The question is, the rightful question is, do we as Americans have the ability to take a look at this from a long view and understand what the possibilities are in a positive way of what Iran could become? They could become a Persian nation of Persian people that have a phenomenal future. But do we really know that?
And they have an incredible history as well. If you go back far enough. Matt, before we leave Iran, do you have anything else you want to address with retired Lieutenant Colonel Darin Gaub?
No, the Strait of Hormuz was my main question, because I guess if I was, Supreme Leader of America, that would have been my strategy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not much of a foreign policy guy.
I want to play a video here for us. And this is about the threat to Donald Trump. He was flying back from Turkey and NATO the other day, and they had to change planes, and it was the result of a possible threat that Mossad told America about, and Donald Trump. Let's watch this video together, and we'll talk about it.
We got to hang this first little bit of news on the Wall Street Journal. They've got a source telling them that Israel relayed to the U.S. intelligence about a new plot to assassinate President Trump. And frankly, it doesn't come as a surprise. The Iranians in particular have not been subtle about it. If you look at the banners that they displayed during the final day of the funeral for the late Grand Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in Mashhad, Iran, the banners read, "We will kill Trump." Comments from the mourners were, "By the blood of the martyred Ayatollah, we will kill Trump," and things of that nature.
And that's what they've been shouting for 47 years. They're continuing to do it. Thank goodness that they have finished the funeral of Khomeini. What was that, 3 months? Is that what they do there? That was amazing to me. But there's a threat to Donald Trump, and I guess he always has a threat domestically or internationally. But it seemed like this was heightened a little bit because of the change of the plane. That was unusual to me. I don't know if you have thoughts there, Darin.
When I saw that, the first thing is that Mossad has proven that they have some of the best intelligence capabilities in the world. And it's because it's how they're able to stay alive as a country. And so it's best you take it serious. Second, when you change a plane, the threat is because of the plane. Now, think back a while, and if you remember the reports that there was the potential of, let's just call it Stinger air defense missiles that came across our southern border. It's been a while since those reports came out, and you've never heard anything about them appearing in an investigation or being confiscated for whatever reason. And so I don't know if those are out there in reality. I don't know if we've taken them from somebody and
kept it quiet.
They just weren't reported. But if the change of a plane was made, then the threat was to the plane that the president was on. And this is just your simple diversion tactic of making people wonder what he's flying on. I'm surprised that we reported it, but maybe there was a purpose to that too.
Yeah, Matt, come on in here.
Well, I guess it's a tangential thought, but the plane that Trump was gifted by Qatar, I think probably should be viewed with a lot of suspicion. I think Trump is I think I saw a headline that Trump is viewing it that way as well. But no, it's very good intel from Assad. And I mean, I know a lot of people complain about the money we give to Israel, and you can debate if it's too much, but I would say it was $3 billion well spent with that tip off, at least this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we first got that plane too, I was like, you better strip that thing down
seriously
to the smallest part and make sure you know exactly what's on that airplane. Because regardless of whether that government would have done it, it's there's plenty of opportunity for people to take advantage of its location and put things on it.
Darin Gaub is an expert with drones and drone warfare. He wrote his thesis on that. But I want to talk about Patriot missiles and something that happened at NATO and Donald Trump giving license to Ukraine to create their own Patriot missiles.
We're going to give a license to you to make Patriots. That's pretty cool, right? Larry? This way you can't complain that we're not giving them enough. I say, make them yourself. We haven't informed the company of that yet, but that'll work out all right.
Do you think that'll be okay, Darin, that Ukraine has that technology now in their hands, or is that a problem? Or am I just thinking crazy?
Proceed with caution. I'm always hesitant to put some of our best technology in the hands of somebody else. And I don't know exactly what they're giving them. I'll put it that way. But in order for the Patriot to fully function, you've got to give them quite a bit. And what you've got between Ukraine and Russia is thug versus thug, and I don't trust either side. So when you give Ukraine technology, that technology has the capacity to be captured on the battlefield in some way, leveraged via somebody else, whether it be China and Russia, who are working together as well on a lot of different topics. And I think we better at least acknowledge the risk that is there. That cannot be discounted. Now, I know part of this is we're looking at Ukraine and their drone capabilities and research and the things that they've looked into as well. I would tell you, just based on that thesis work that I did nearly 20 years ago in defining future battlefields, which are essentially what you're seeing now, the proliferation of technologies, because they're small, easy to move, and in some cases, they're just softwares that move over the internet. You're going to see an interesting equalization potentially of major powers and minor powers simply because of the cost versus lethality ratios. And, just like with given Turkey potential technologies within some of our jets, I think you got to be extraordinarily careful given some of our best to others to learn how to use.
Yeah, that was something else that happened in NATO this week, that Donald Trump said that he was going to allow Turkey to buy the F-35s. Matt, do you have anything you want to jump in here and jump on this?
Is this does this represent a change in Trump's, I guess, strategy with Ukraine and Russia, kind of moving away from, hopefully a ceasefire and a peace deal as quickly as possible, and instead now moving to, I don't know, kind of pushing for a decisive Ukraine victory instead? Or is it just, maybe this will bring Russia to the table? Do we have any, I don't know, intel on that?
Well, intel, maybe not specific.
Probably not the right word.
It's more like, do I understand these countries a little bit? Sure. In strategy in general. Well, the first shift you saw was when Trump said, okay, Europe, you can buy our stuff and give it to them, but we're not going to give it outright, blank check. That was strategy shift number one. And that was just part of, I guess you could say, the continuation of the attempt for a treaty. The realization that there's probably not going to be one coming right now is worth noting. And this strategy, I would say, this is an initial indicator that could lead to something else, which is, okay, Ukraine, we're not going to fight your battles for you, but here, make your own items and fight your own battle using your own people, your own resources, your own capabilities. And we might take another step back. Because again, if I was in the room with Trump right now, my first piece of advice to him would be just to step away. Because define our strategic objectives in picking a side between Russia and Ukraine right now. What do we gain? What do we lose by taking a side?
Yeah, it's hard to say what we really gain in either. at least, at least in my, assessment of it, which isn't worth much. But
did you guys
I would
realize
say you have a better assessment than many by knowing.
All right, well, that's good. It's good for my my foreign policy confidence.
did you guys realize that war has been going on longer than World War One?
Jeez.
Yeah.
And I mean, Putin put I think, what was Putin's timeline? 2 weeks on that, I think it was, or maybe it was shorter. But yeah, obviously been going on for quite a while. And I will admit, I am surprised. Like, I did kind of think Trump would have it fixed within a month or two. He's been extremely good at ending wars, including wars that Booker, you and I didn't even know were going on. So
That's right.
yeah. But,
The Congo, he quit that one.
yeah, Azerbaijan apparently was at war.
Yeah,
Who knew? But good for him. I'm glad they're not anymore.
And he has the power to change a red card in the World Cup. We saw that this week.
No one's had that power before.
No, never. But
No
you remember in December of 2025, he was awarded the first ever FIFA whatever award that was. He got a big trophy, and so it was that guy, the guy that gave him the award, that he called about the red card. There's one more I want to play from NATO, and this has to do with Spain. It sounds like Donald Trump. What he did was, I'm going to let you play. I'll play the video. You can see it. But he said, I don't want to do business with Spain anymore. So here's this video.
Spain doesn't agree to anything, and you shouldn't carry them. I mean, you sort of automatically carry because you're protecting an area, so they're there. So they probably figure they have to protect us, right? But we don't have to. We don't have to trade with them. I don't want to do any more trade with them. All right? Take it immediately.
So he doesn't want to do any more trade with them. They're not going to pay any more money. And then suddenly, a few hours later, Spain writes a check, and Donald Trump was successful in getting money again. What do you see about NATO? It seems like it's been a little flimsy. Do you still see that, or are they making up now?
Well, I would say that ultimately they're still flimsy, but moving a little bit forward. Not much, but a little bit. And who knew you'd see Spain go hard communist, basically, while South America is turning into a bastion of liberty. That's just, that wasn't on my bingo card necessarily either. But it's good to see in South America. Hopefully Spain the people there can right the ship somehow. But NATO in general, I've always been a big fan of avoiding entangling alliances for long periods of time, especially where missions are tough to describe. And we've made an enemy of Russia where we didn't have to after the Cold War, for a variety of long and historical reasons. But I'm a believer that when it comes to NATO, it's time to say, we're going to lean ourselves out of those countries, and we'll go back to them and train with them as the mission dictates and as opportunities arise. We'll go there, we'll come back. But bring the majority of our forces home and leave liaison officers or tiny staffs of maybe 5 at the most within major headquarters in some of these countries to keep the relationships moving. But understand that this painting a picture of Russia that they're going to invade Europe is pretty ridiculous, and that leaves NATO with a difficult to define mission set. It can do and can be great as an organization, but it's less a defense organization now and more a political organization than ever before. And I'm a big believer that it is time to stop letting them lean on us so much, both material and finances.
Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. I'm going to let you come back to Darin, and then we're going to let him go because I told him 15 or 20 minutes. We're well beyond that. Thank you, Darin, for doing that. But Matt, come on in here, and then we'll talk about your book for a minute, and we'll let you go.
I was just going to say, it's a reminder of how much leverage we do, in fact, have. It does seem like any time a country behaves the way Spain does, that they kind of get caught bluffing every single time. So I don't know. It's good for us and good for Trump's agenda of getting NATO to pay more, which, I know he has been successful, but it also is the case. They've been underpaying for so many decades that I think that, maybe there's a little more makeup to do, but leave it at that. Yeah,
we're not there yet, but we're at least we're moving forward. We're
doing better. Yep.
Finally.
Yeah.
And your book is over your shoulder, so that makes it easier. Good job, Darin.
I need one of those.
And so that is his book. It makes it easier for all of us. You can see his book over his shoulder. Go check it out. It's about 80 different essays. It's a type of book where you can read, a short story, put it down for 2 or 3 weeks, come back and read another one. It's my kind of book. That's the kind of book I need to read. But Darin, thank you so much for coming on the PB&J podcast. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to join you, and I look forward to more in the future, hopefully.
Good stuff.
We'll have you back.
All right.
Tired of struggling with low energy? We get it. That's why we created organic energy juice. You'll have natural energy all day, and you'll never struggle with low energy again. In just 2 minutes, you can restore your natural energy without chemicals, without stimulants, no toxins, and there is no crash. You shouldn't have to struggle with low energy, and with the organic energy juice, you won't. So if you're struggling with low energy, buying organic energy juice is the right decision. Go to chemicalfreebody.com, use the discount code PBJ, and get your organic energy juice today.
Those big online stores you've been ordering from, they could be as high as 70% Chinese-based sellers. How much money are you giving them? Now, if you're like me, you'd rather support American businesses and get stuff you can actually trust, right? That's why Mammoth Nation exists. It's a one-stop online marketplace where every single seller is a U.S.-based business. You can see it right here on their page. Quality products from companies right here in our country. The best part? Mammoth Nation gives members access to exclusive deals. We're talking some of the lowest prices you're going to find anywhere. Right now, you can join with and get 30% off when you use promo code USA. So if you care about where your money goes and you want to save while doing it, check out mammothnation.com today.
Drew's a good guy. I can vouch for him.
Yeah. Booker Scott and Matt Palumbo here. This is the PB&J Podcast. And let's go to Venezuela real quick, because I know you looked at a story this week about how much oil America is buying right now from Venezuela compared to recent years. It's up to what, 93% now since January when we went and got Maduro.
Yeah, I had sent you just kind of a funny, snippy commentary on that, because someone was pointing out that, whenever we go to war with the Middle East, the narrative is always, the war is just for oil. But then again, the part where we benefit from the oil never seems to materialize. And they were just kind of pointing out this is the one quote unquote war. I know it's not really a war, but they said it's the first war we ever fought for oil, and it turned out to actually have been very successful. So just thought it was some funny commentary. But it's also in conjunction too with putting pressure on Cuba, and I think we might have reported on this on a prior episode. But the pressure Trump is putting on Cuba, both by depriving them of fuel and additional sanctions, is forcing them to change their economic system, and that their communist government unanimously approved dozens, I believe, or it might have even been hundreds of free market reforms. And this included things like privatizing certain state properties, allowing, removing restrictions on how many people businesses can employ, allowing for franchising. Previously, they would allow you to have one business, but you couldn't have more than that. And then among many, many, many other free market initiatives. So Trump is transforming that country from within. It's like, I guess, an ideological regime change with the regime still in power, but it's still going to be a lot better for the Cuban people.
I thought Cuba would have already come into, Donald Trump's focus. I think it was getting close, but then Iran came and other things came. I think it's not going to be long, though. I think the people of Cuba are going to be free eventually. Yeah. I don't know if you saw their legislature pass something to give them a little more freedom, but it doesn't mean much. I mean, you still have the regime of the Castros there that are in charge. So let's go to Maine real quick. I don't know what else we can say about Graham Plattner.
That dude. If only there were signs he wasn't a good guy. No, it was hilarious. I mean, we're 10 years into Trump is Hitler, Republicans are Nazis. If you see a Nazi, punch a Nazi, and then a Democrat runs with a Nazi tattoo, and it's, well, I mean, it's a mistake anyone could have made, but it was, the New York Times said it resembled a Nazi tattoo. It's, I believe, the second most common or recognizable Nazi symbol after the swastika. I mean, it's on all their hats. It's pretty hard to miss if you've ever watched anything about World War II. So it is a reminder too that ultimately the left really has no standards. And the cliche is, or maybe I don't know if cliche is the right word. I've just heard it so many times. But if Democrats didn't have double standards, they would have no standards. I think it's 100% true. And then I will say, with Plattner and the women coming forward, I actually have a sneaking suspicion that they had known about this and had assessed that Plattner was likely to lose and then decided to go forward with this and make him drop out, at least the most recent iteration, because this is not the first time he's been accused of scummy behavior, but they excused it before because like one of the women he had dated ended up being a Republican operative. And they said, okay, well, she's saying that because she's politically motivated. And then it turns out the latest accuser is a Democrat, so it gives them more credibility. But my point being, they're willing to ignore it in the past. So why is this different? And if you look at the betting odds on the gambling platforms, which I do not recommend anyone bet on, obviously, if you look at the betting line for not will Collins or Plattner win, will a Republican or a Democrat win the Senate in Maine? The odds for the Republican, Collins, actually fell from above like 55% or so to around 35% after that latest Plattner scandal. Now you'd think, how is that possible? How would the Democrats' chances of winning go up when one candidate is accused of rape? And the explanation is, well, it's serious enough that it'll make him drop out, and then you'll get a Democrat who does not have a Nazi tattoo, among other baggage. So I think that's how the market was interpreting it. Now, that being said, that's just the opinions of some people throwing money at it in the short term, and the odds always change. And I have some money on Susan Collins myself, but I don't think she's in trouble.
Well, I think we found the limit for the Democrats. Mm-hmm. Nazi okay, rapist okay, Nazi rapist, that's over the line for them, I guess.
You got to pick one.
Right. Nazi okay, rapist okay. Yo, you're both of them? Wait a minute. You can't do that.
Well, at least they have standards, you know?
Well, I think a bigger problem here, Matt, and there's a part of me now that wants to defend Plattner. And that comes from the fact that the Democrats have just stolen another election.
Yep.
You know, the will of the people, and I know this is being said, and this is the first thing I started thinking of, is the will of the people is being taken from the Democrats again. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that are always talking about democracy and elections and vote your voice. And then you have, 150,000 plus voted for him, and it doesn't matter. They're going to boil it down to 600 people in the Democrat Party that are going to determine who it is that's going to run. And they did it in 2016 with Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. They did it with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden just in 2024. And now they're doing it again. If that's not socialism, you're no longer voting for anybody if you're a Democrat, because if they don't like who you selected, they're going to put somebody else in there. That's the way I see this, and that's concerning.
Yeah, it doesn't sound democratic at all now you think about it. But hey, listen, it's good news for us because Plattner actually did have a very active and engaged supporter base. His rallies were packed. Like it's objectively the case. He was drawing turnout. He was exciting the base, and I think it's a guarantee. Like I know the market seems to think otherwise, but I think the replacement, there's going to be an enthusiasm problem where there's going to be people who were of the 70 or so percent that voted for Plattner that said, this is not what I signed up for. This is not who I voted for. There are going to be, the guy's going to, by definition, or by circumstance, have less name recognition just because of how little time he has to campaign. And in fact, Democrats, including Kamala Harris, love to blame her loss on the fact that, I replaced him so late in the game but didn't have time to campaign. I think she would have. With her, it doesn't really work because the more people hear of her, the less they like her. So I think it actually helped her. But in this case, I think it'll hurt the person in that there's no enthusiasm, no name recognition. They're not who they picked. And, they become an establishment candidate. Democrats viewed Graham Plattner as an anti-establishment candidate. So
right. And I think that it's going to hurt the Democrats more than it's going to help them. Yep. I think a lot of his base is going to be ticked off about it, and they just won't go vote for whoever the Democrats choose for them.
And many of them, too, are not, traditional Democrats in that, Bernie Sanders, when he ran for president as a Democrat, like, he's a socialist. If we were in Europe, he would be in a different party, but we have a two-party system here. Now, I think probably half of Democrats at least are socialists at this point, so maybe it's even not even really worth making a distinction there. But there are like a sizable percentage of his support are people that view the Democratic Party as not, insufficiently progressive, not left-wing enough, and those people might just not turn out to vote, God willing.
Well, let's talk about the Democrat Socialists of America, DSA, because, they're calling it DSA. They're taking out the Democrat Socialist Party. They have a logo that says DSA. And the DSA's platform evidently is to get rid of, here it is. I pulled it up for you.
Eliminate the Senate.
They want to eliminate the U.S. Senate. That doesn't seem like maybe a good idea. And you know why that is, because there's 29 or 30 red states, GOP states, and if they eliminate the Senate, then the Republicans have no voice in Congress because the House of Representatives will be won by the Democrats. And so that's what they're thinking. And also, if they change with the census in 2030, with all the illegal immigrants coming in,
we get like almost 20 seats.
Yeah. So this is a long-term plan for DSA, and I don't think we should call them DSA. I think we should call them socialists.
Their end goal is communism. I mean, I think they just chose democratic socialists because they can say, no, we want the Nordic model or something, which gets romanticized, even though it would not, it's not as all cracked up to be. You're paying 60% taxes if you're middle class. But they had a meeting recently, and a bunch of clips are going viral, and that's where they were basically saying what I just said, that communism is the end goal. It's not even just socialism, which is bad enough as it is.
Replacing the president and the Supreme Court, they say, and that the judiciary will be held responsible by only the House of Representatives. Can you imagine what that would be like?
No longer three branches. Yeah,
man, it's incredible. Amnesty for all immigrants, defunding the Department of War. That seems like a good idea, doesn't it?
I like though. At least they say Department of War instead of Defense Department. They're not dead naming the Department of War.
We'll wait for them to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, but I doubt that's going to happen.
No.
Did you happen to see what Fetterman said about Graham Plattner on Fox the other night? He said trash took itself out.
That's good.
He and the other senator from Pennsylvania, Senator McCormick, they are joining together in a fundraiser.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's Fetterman's. If you look at his approval rating among Democrats from when he took office to now, it's shifted by over 100 points against him, which I don't think that's probably ever happened with any candidate. And it's totally, as we've discussed on the show before, it actually is totally unjustified. Fetterman has realized that the way to be a swing state senator is go on Fox News and say right-wing stuff and then vote like a Democrat. And it seems to have kind of fooled both sides in that his approval rating is net positive among Republicans. It is overwhelmingly negative among Democrats. If his voting record, if Susan Collins had his voting record, we would have thrown her out years ago. So he's at a minute under Biden, it was like 90+% with Biden. Right. I believe it's actually changed slightly more in the Republicans' favor. Like he's only 75% Democrat now. But I guess if there's no Republican that can, compete against him and replace him, then this is the best bet we got. And I feel like they should at least try to extort some concessions out of him. And that, like, if Fetterman came out and said, "I'll vote for the SAVE Act," I would vote for him as a Republican in Pennsylvania at that point, if that's what it takes.
Yeah. Well, I think his votes, when you say 75%, I think he's very strong for Israel. And he doesn't shy away from that. And then the other one is government shutdowns. He's very anti-government shutdowns. So I think that has probably contributed to going from 93%, I think, under Biden to probably 75% now.
Yeah, but it's, I know this joke's been made a million times before, but it is at least, nice to see that as you recover from having brain damage, you become more right-wing. So.
Yeah, I thought he was a lot more liberal before the stroke. I don't know what happened. If we could get some more people maybe in the Senate and the House to, well, never mind. I'm not going to.
Well, speaking of the brain dead, we have Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, we do. Well, what about him? What about Mitch McConnell? Yeah, this is nuts to me.
Yeah,
I can't understand.
I guess what do we do? Do we try to replace? I mean, a Republican will win that race no matter what, and we can't just appoint someone if he steps down. So I guess it's not really a crisis or anything, and there's not really any big votes coming up. So
I don't understand why everybody has gone crazy about it.
Yeah,
that's all you see on social media. It's bubbled up onto the news now, and for what reason? I can't figure it out because in the Kentucky Constitution, it's 90 days for a special election. In 2024, Kentucky legislature, they went and House Bill 622, they took away the authority for the governor to appoint. So there would be a special election.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah,
So I correct
election,
my prior error.
Well, if there is a special election, you're looking somewhere around October, which the election is in November.
Right.
The primary was in May. The two people that are running for Mitch McConnell's space, because he's already said he was retiring, they're already in the race. So they're going to win November 5th. One of the two will.
Yeah.
And they're going to be sworn in January 5th.
Yep.
So in reality, all of this is over about 30 days.
Yeah.
Because they'll recess for Christmas. So you're talking about November. And that's it. And what were you getting from Mitch McConnell anyway? Everybody couldn't stand Mitch McConnell because they said he was blocking everything that Donald Trump was doing. So if he's not there to vote, how's that hurting you? So I can't get it.
Yeah, there's not any real big votes coming up that are going to be determined by one, at least that I'm aware of. So yeah, it's not the end of the world. And,
especially Mitch McConnell. But let's watch this real quick. This was back in June when whatever medical event he had at his house in Washington, D.C., and a lot of people are making out, well, there's no urgency to it, and they think that he was dead. There are people saying that he's brain dead. I don't know. I don't know that it matters. And
I was just joking when I said that. I don't actually think he is, but
you don't think he is dead?
Well, I guess what's the incentive to? What is gained by delaying that coming out by a few weeks or months or whatever?
There's nothing really.
Yeah,
I don't understand the conspiracy that's being floated out there.
Yeah, but you can be brain dead and serve in Congress, so or in the Senate.
Obviously.
So yeah, clearly. So he can still serve even if that's true.
Scott Jennings came out on CNN and he said he talked to him for a 20-minute conversation.
Oh, good.
There have been other people that have said the same thing, and now there are rumors as of Friday that he is dead. And now everybody's getting mad at Scott Jennings. And again, for what? I don't know. This was a Babylon Bee video. You may enjoy.
Breaking news tonight: Senator Mitch McConnell is dead. Or is he? As rumors continue to circulate regarding his current condition, McConnell's staff reassured the public that even if he were dead, that would not be enough to prevent him from finishing out his term. The longtime Kentucky senator was hospitalized after being found unresponsive in his D.C. home.
And then that goes back to sometime in the middle of June, but it's pretty funny that the Babylon Bee said the same thing that we just said. Nobody would know anyway. And his staff says he can serve out his term.
I think in Vegas in the past few years, the Republican candidate in one race died and then won his election anyway. So
that's not
you can win an election as a dead person, which is, I guess, good news for him or us. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I hope he's fine regardless. And
it's bad for America when dead people are winning. It shows you how people are tuned in when they go vote, when they don't even know they're voting for a dead person.
It's true. Or it becomes a protest vote at that point. It's like voting for a cat or something. Although I guess it would be better if, well, Democrats have dead voters. We have dead victors. That's the difference between us, I guess. So we all benefit.
Well, Nick Shirley has a new video out about more fraud. This is going to be in Brooklyn this time. But real quick, let's go back to Minnesota. And we had someone plead guilty this week, and this was the person that ran the Leering Center. If you remember, the Learning Center that left out the N back in, what was that, February, January?
They didn't even spell Leering right either.
No, they didn't. I didn't even notice. The N had me so distracted, I didn't notice they misspelled Leering.
Yeah, they could have spelled learning or leering. Neither were correct. Yeah.
So here is Fahima Mohammed.
5 months after she shut down her daycare, booked a flight to London, and was arrested by the FBI.
Ms. Mahmoud, are you here to plead guilty today?
50-year-old Fahima Mahmoud admits she committed daycare fraud.
I like that she went to cover her face and then realized she's wearing a burqa. What are you hiding?
I didn't notice that either.
I've seen that in other videos. I've seen like man on the street interviews where like someone in a burqa is walking by and they cover their face, and I'm like, "What are you? You're covering your eye slit. What is I don't understand.
Well, she pleaded guilty to a $4.8 million fraud, Matt. Federal prosecutors estimate the broader fraud across 14 different Minnesota state-administered programs could be up to $9 billion, and that $9 billion was over a 4-year period. Convictions continue to mount, and much of the money linked to these broader programs is still being audited at this point. But let's now go to another Nick Shirley investigation, and this one happens to be in Brooklyn, New York.
And how come you guys are the daycare that receives the most amount of money here in Flushing, Queens?
We have a lot of members.
How many members do you guys have?
I don't have to tell you.
Because here it says you guys have 7,899.
So where did you get this information?
Oh, it's actually from the public databases of CMS and HHS.
Do I have to tell you the number?
But this place doesn't look like it can hold 7,000 people.
Can I have an ID or something? You're asking me some about...
Well, this is public information because it's public tax dollars that you guys are receiving.
I don't have to tell you, right?
Yeah, but do you guys have 7,000 members, for instance?
No, we don't have 7,000 members.
Okay.
No, we don't have 7,000.
I don't tell you. Okay, no. At least he can't be dishonest. Good for him.
That was $190 million fraud potential in that one location there.
But how does that
do good work?
The fact that doesn't get flagged is amazing. Like the fact that no bureaucrat goes, okay, you got 2,000 square feet and you're going to service 7,000 people. Okay, so we're going to have 3 people per square foot. Makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
It was old people getting Tai Chi. That was what the money was allocated for, literally.
Oh, great. That's really important.
Well, we talk about the Somalians there in Minnesota. They are Muslims. And do we have a Muslim problem in this country? You see all of this about mosques being built, and Muslims taking over this country and from the Islam faith. And let's listen to this. This is Representative Chip Roy from the House of Representatives. He is from San Antonio, Texas area. Listen to what he said on the House floor.
I mean, is anybody paying attention to what's happening in London? I'm going to say it here on the floor of the House to get the scorn of people when I say you've got a massive Muslim takeover of the United Kingdom going on right before our eyes. They would say, Chip, well, what is wrong with that? Well, I've got some pretty strong concerns about Sharia law and whether that'll be forced upon the American people. In this case, the people of the United Kingdom. I've got pretty strong concerns about people who want to see Israel's destruction, who were happy about October 7th, who were elected in the United Kingdom. Some might say that we've seen that here in the United States. What are we going to do about that? We have 51.5 million people who are foreign born in the United States. They have about 20 to 25 million kids. That puts that well over 20-something% of our population. It's the highest such number in the history of our country. People say, well, isn't that great? Is it?
I would say no.
No.
If you look 30 years out from now.
Yeah. They breed like rabbits, man.
Yeah, and it's not going to stop. Yeah,
and Dearborn, Michigan is the one I've heard it cited by liberals as a model proving that Muslims assimilate and get along with their neighbors. And it's the exact opposite is what I've seen. In fact, the Muslim Democrat candidate for Senate, it's El Sayed or something or other. Well, he's not the nominee yet, but he is almost certainly going to win that primary. When I believe it was when we killed the Ayatollah, he didn't put out a statement supporting it because he was worried it would alienate Muslims in Dearborn that would vote for him. So that's his assessment of what the people of Dearborn believe. And I don't think they're that well assimilated of a population. If you're walking around in a hijab or a burqa, clearly you do not adhere to the values of this country.
Any idea how many mosques are in Texas, or what do you think? Because you see a lot of this. You see they're building mosques in Texas. Governor Greg Abbott isn't doing what he should
2,000?
do. Well, let's go to Houston. Houston. All
right. Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, there is a problem in Houston. They have 57,000 Muslims living there.
I thought you were going to say mosques. All right.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to the mosques. There's 40,000 in Dallas, Fort Worth, and there are 330 to over 390 mosques in Texas. That's a lot. The population of the Muslim people is exploding there in Texas. And by the way, did you know that there is also a Georgetown University in Qatar?
No.
Yes.
I mean, I know there are schools that have, like, I guess, branches in other countries, but I didn't. Satellite. Yeah, I didn't know they had that.
And Qatar has given about $900 million to Georgetown University over the last several years. How much money do you think we give Georgetown? And do you think we should give Georgetown money if they're in bed with Qatar?
Well, I thought they were a private school, so I didn't think they would get anything. But
about $400 million.
Why?
I don't know.
And this is like direct subsidies. We're not counting like federal loans. Like
no,
direct.
Yeah, we are. I am. Honestly,
that's
counting about $200 million in student loans, but still, $200
million in that's insane.
In grants, mainly for science and things like this. But the Qatar situation, their money is for anti-far right messaging. Is what they are doing in both the satellite campus in Qatar and here in Washington, D.C. at Georgetown University. It is concerning, I think. Are you concerned about the Muslims overtaking America like they have in the UK and in Europe?
Well, it happens very, very slowly and then all at once. In that, when there was a group that is a minority in your country, and this has happened with Muslims in Europe, when there are 1% of the population or 2% of the population, and you see a news event of some guy spit at a Muslim, some guy spray painted a mosque, it's very easy to have sympathy and say, you know what, we don't like how this group is being treated. We should make accommodations. And yet that same group, no matter how well you treat them, and this has happened time and time again in Europe, once they are 10 or 15% of the population, they are going to treat you far worse than you thought we ever treated them. And it's not even going to be close. And there's never going to be any appreciation of, you guys were there for us or whatever, or you let us into your country. It all goes out the window. They want total control. Their religion is also a political religion. So it's in the nature of them to subvert countries. There literally is a concept called taqiyya, which means it's illegal for them in their faith to lie to us, to deceive us for their own goal. So yeah, it's not really something I want here. And, I get that, in states where there's basically no Muslim population, it may seem a bit silly to pass anti-Sharia laws, but it's preemptive, because if they become 1% of the population, give it a decade or two, they're going to be 5%, and then 10%, and then whatever percent. So it's good to have those laws there. And actually, I'm kind of speaking out of order, but there was a liberal town that in the past 2 years elected an all Muslim city council. And one of the first things the Muslims did, which I will say I thought was hilarious, was they banned the pride flag from public property. And all the liberals were going, but we supported you and we all voted for you. How could you do this to us? And well, I will admit this is totally a win for the Muslims in this case. There's a million other things they're going to do that are going to be totally actually horrible. And it's just... there are certain people where it doesn't matter how much you accommodate them, how nice you are. They have an ulterior motive. They're going to work towards it, and all you can do is beat them, or prevent them from taking power.
Well, Matt, we are to the end of our hour. It goes by really fast, doesn't it?
Yep.
We want to thank everybody for watching WD Americans Facebook Live. Thank you. Keep writing the comments. We are looking at the comments. We're watching them. I make screenshots of them. So thank you very much for watching there. Also on Talk Red, and you can also follow us on Rumble and YouTube at Palumbo Booker Justified, either one of those. Thank you very much for watching us. Have a great week. We'll be back next weekend with more of the PB&J podcast. What do you say, Matt?
I bet Iran will be in the news this week. It's my prediction, and I stand by it.
Well, the Senate is back in July 13th. Maybe they'll vote on the SAVE Act. What do you think?
Yeah, I think unfortunately it's not going to go our way. But I don't know. Maybe, hopefully we do well in the midterms. And we got 2 rhinos that are against the SAVE Act, including one of them, by the way. I think it was who co-sponsored it. So he's clearly just trying to get back at Trump. But they're going to be gone. So hopefully we'll 2 Republicans who will vote for the SAVE Act. So it could move in our favor. I don't think we've discussed nuking the filibuster on this show, but obviously if they were to do that, they could get it passed. But I would more favor.
Do you see? I don't think that they could get it passed if they nuke the filibuster, and I'm against nuking the filibuster.
I should say I'm against
it on the radio show.
I think it's very short-sighted to get rid of. So I would instead say try to do it by attaching it to some other piece of legislation like they did before, and then there's less risk of unintended consequences from getting rid of the filibuster.
Yeah. Well, see, I really believe John Thune doesn't have the votes. Yeah, he keeps saying I don't have the numbers. Let me add them up for you. Let's go. Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Cassidy in Louisiana.
Oh, Cassidy and but I'm counting Cassidy as a yes once he's replaced next year.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
okay.
so we're losing 2 rhinos against.
Yeah, you're losing Tom Tillis too.
Yes, so it's those 2. We're picking up 2 votes.
Tillis, Cornyn, Cassidy, but then Murkowski and Collins and McConnell and Rand Paul. That's 7. So even
I thought it was 52-48 the last vote, but I may have misremembered.
47-48. I'm just saying it's skinny. Yeah. Even with those 3 being replaced, and nuking the filibuster doesn't guarantee that. But
true.
Again, thank you so much for watching, Matt.
On that note,
we'll do it again next week. We are the sandwich of sanity in a political crazy world.
You have been watching a no budget production, the PB&J Podcast.